The Kia Optima sedan debuted at the New York Auto Show in 2010, and the Koreans immediately said that the car was the third generation, since they started counting from the once popular Kia Magenta sedan. A year later, Optima appeared in Russia, and since November 2012, production has been established at the Kaliningrad Avtotor. Six-cylinder engines were not offered on Russian-assembled cars, only gasoline atmospheric 4s 2.0, 150 horsepower, and 2.4, 180 horsepower. A traditional six-speed hydraulic is the main transmission, while manuals are rare. The body is the same as before, only a four-door sedan, and the Sonata platform itself has remained the same. But the design of the talented Peter Schreier still looks relevant to this day, so much so that the next, fourth-generation Kia Optima, which appeared in 2018, does not look radically different. And the prices for early pre-styling copies of the third Optima start at about 600,000 rubles, possibly cheaper. However, saving is not worth it, including because of the numerous childish problems. The 2.4 engine of the Theta 2 family is older in design, was developed in 2005. He has no problems due to pistons, however, on Optima older than 2015, this motor is also capable of presenting an unpleasant surprise. After 120 to 150,000 kilometers, it can lift up and turn the connecting rod bearings of the crankshaft. In the worst-case scenario, you can not only hear knocks, but also see the fist of friendship. Cases of breakdown of a cylinder block by a broken connecting rod are not isolated. In fairness, in 2015, quite effective improvements were made to the motor. The performance of the oil pump was increased, the design of the connecting rod and liners were changed. The 2.0 engine of the new family can loosen the chain in the timing drive not only when it is stretched, sometimes the oil supply channel to the tensioner is simply clogged. Another sign of contamination of the lubrication system is hydraulic valve lifters. If they knock on a cold engine due to a lack of operating pressure, do not rush to change them right away. Often flushing the engine in fresh oil eliminates this problem. The weakest point of the 2-liter unit of the 2010 model is the piston group. Due to poor design with reduced groove spacing and thin rings, pistons suffer from poor heat dissipation. Small taps on the walls of the cylinders sometimes begin after only 40 to 50,000 kilometers. Although in most cases a sign of progressive engine wear is a gradual increase in oil consumption. With a run of 80 to 120,000 kilometers, it is imperative to examine the motor with an endoscope. Scoring may be found. After 150 to 180,000 kilometers, they usually lead to critical cylinder wear, accompanied by a serious jar of oil. You will have to change the short block, having laid out at least 150,000 rubles. To reduce the risk, it is better to reduce the oil change interval to 7,000 kilometers and carefully monitor the condition of the cooling system, including the radiator, which must be immaculately clean. In addition, the converter can also threaten with scuffing in the cylinders, which sometimes begins to crumble after 120 to 130,000 kilometers, and much earlier when refueling with substandard fuel. The usual place for an oil leak in an older 2.4-liter engine is the connector of the crankcase installed on the sealant, and in a 2-liter engine, from under the valve cover. If replacing the gasket no longer helps, you will have to change the warped plastic cover. Only the original for 7,000 rubles is available. For both engines, unstable idling after 60 to 70,000 kilometers, as a rule, is a consequence of throttle contamination. Cleaning heals. After 120 to 150,000 kilometers, it is necessary to control whether there are any extraneous noises after warming up from the timing drive side. When the chain is stretched, it makes sense to update everything as a set, with a tensioner and a set of dampers, which will cost about 20,000 rubles per circle. The 6-speed, automatic A6MF of Korean design is capable of throwing a weighty pig only on pre-styling machines from among the earliest ones. At first, the valve body turned out to be not particularly tenacious, but after recalibration it began to withstand at least 1.5 times longer than the previous 100,000 kilometers. Then the oil temperature sensor became the reason for the twitchy behavior of the box. In the service company that took place in 2015, many were replaced with modified ones. And even on the very first copies, the basket of the box was not very securely fixed with bolts. After 100 to 120,000 kilometers, they could unscrew. The most harmless consequence was a package of friction clutches clamped and burned from slipping. The first sign of trouble is the smell of overcooked oil. Worse, if the basket was broken. The oversight, however, was quickly corrected. The modified automatic on most cars is relatively reliable and is able to hold out for 250,000 kilometers before repair. The main thing is to monitor the cleanliness of the oil, which is actively contaminated by wear products of the locks. It is better to update it after 50 to 60,000 kilometers. The oil filter is inside the box and changes only when it is sorted. The 6-speed manual M6CF3 is extremely rare, and only on 2-liter Optimas. On pre-styling machines, it can surprise. After 120 to 150,000 kilometers, it may crunch due to wear of the plastic blocking ring of the third-gear synchronizer. On restyled cars, metal began to be used instead of polymer. The problem disappeared. The front-wheel bearings of pre-styling cars failed after 30 to 50,000 kilometers. Many managed to change them under warranty. At Optima younger than 2013, the modified bearings are more durable. A crunch when turning the steering wheel after 30 to 60,000 kilometers is a sign of wear on the bearings in the front strut supports, 700 rubles each. Upgraded supports on cars after restyling last at least twice as long. The silent blocks of the rear multi-link also go separately from the rods and require updating after 140 to 170,000 kilometers. And make sure that after 5 or 6 years without lubrication, brake-up bolts do not acidify. The electric motors in the power steering of pre-styling cars were massively changed in 2014. Also, the bite mechanism itself was often the reason for warranty replacements. But when knocking, do not rush to immediately sin on the Euro. In addition to it, after 120,000 kilometers, the sources of knocks are tips, an elastic coupling in front of the gearbox, or a universal joint of the steering shaft. The best choice is a modernized Kia Optima no older than 2013. Earlier pre-styling machines may have more serious problems, including with the main units. And in any case, you need to set aside at least 800,000 rubles for the purchase. Cheaper copies at the bottom of the market, for the most part, served in a taxi.